Good afternoon to everyone watching us live on Zoom and Facebook, and welcome to this edition of SCMAP Live, presented in partnership with SAP. I'm Ana Rose Ochoa, Program Director of the Supply Chain Management Association of the Philippines, and will be your host for this afternoon. For our first SCMAP Live of 2023, we will continue to explore our efforts to make supply chains sustainable. This will continue to be a major concern this year, especially as more companies proceed with efforts to reduce their carbon emissions and facilitate the circular economy. The Philippines has committed to reducing its carbon emissions by 75% as part of its signing of the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. The Securities and Exchange Commission, as of 2019, has also begun to require publicly listed companies to report on its policies pertaining to the environment, society, and governance. And so, we will learn in the next hour and a half, every player across the supply chain, particularly logistics providers, toll manufacturers, and partners, also has a role to play in ensuring sustainable supply chains now and in the future. Today, we will hear from esteemed speakers to share their expertise and perspectives on this pressing issue. We will look at how we can better leverage data and technology to move one step closer towards realizing our goals of sustainable supply chains. I would like to thank our partner for this afternoon, SAP. You can scan the QR code being flashed on the screen now to give your feedback on this event. And the first 15 respondents will receive Grab vouchers. Okay, so let's begin with our first speaker. Joining us this afternoon is Iggy Sison, the Chief Sustainability Officer of Del Monte, Philippines, and concurrently the Chief Corporate Officer of its parent company, Del Monte Pacific Incorporated. He is also part of the advisory board of the Ateneo Institute of Sustainability and is Vice Chair of the Philippine Sustainability Reporting Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Iggy Sison.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Ana Rose. Good afternoon to all of you. I would like to start with a short video on Del Monte sustainability, which will help frame our discussion this afternoon.
Throughout our nearly 100 years of history, Del Monte Philippines Incorporated, or DMPI, has strived to operate a sustainable business which promotes the vision and strategy of our company. DMPI is guided by 6 sustainability pillars: nourishing consumers, nurturing employees, developing communities, preserving nature, strengthening governance, and sustaining growth. We nourish consumers through our products, which are mostly plant-based. Our pineapples are rich in vitamins and minerals that boost immunity, while our tomato products have lycopene, an antioxidant that helps prevent certain diseases. The Del Monte brand heritage spans nearly 100 years in the Philippines, a testament to consumers' trust in our company's premium food and beverage products, known for their quality, health, and nutrition. We nurture employees by promoting their well-being, work-life integration, and employee engagement. DMPI provides housing, supports schools and sports, and operates the Phillips Memorial Hospital close to our plantation in Bukidnon. Our company has nurtured generations of employees from the same family, a testimony to our care for our people. Del Monte Philippines is the first company to be awarded as Employer of the Year 3 times by the People Management Association of the Philippines. We develop communities through the Del Monte Foundation's programs for community health and wellness, livelihood, education, and youth development. Tens of thousands have received medical and dental treatment from our foundation's mobile clinics. During the COVID-19 pandemic, DMPI partnered with over 400 organizations to provide nutrition to more than 100,000 people in indigent communities and frontline workers in medical facilities. Commitment to society and environment is one of our company's core values. We preserve nature through soil conservation, biodiversity, water, energy, and waste management. We believe that DMPI has a negative carbon footprint given our vast 26,000 hectare plantation and the 500,000 trees we have planted and added to the forest cover around the plantation. Our company has a waste-to-energy facility that generates 2.8 megawatts of renewable energy from the wastewater of our factory. Our pineapple pulp, a byproduct of the processing plant, is used as animal feed for cattle. DMPI's close to a century of growing and manufacturing since 1926 attests to how we have sustained the environment and our own operations. We strengthen governance grounded on the principles of transparency, integrity, and accountability as the company operates in an ethical and responsible manner. The board of DMPI's parent company, Del Monte Pacific Limited, received the Best Managed Board Award twice in the Singapore Corporate Awards. By promoting our sustainability pillars, we sustain the growth of our company in a holistic way. The triple bottom line: people, planet, and performance. As a food company, Del Monte Philippines remains committed to sustaining our future for our consumers, host communities, business partners, employees, and shareholders.
Okay, let me share my slides. We wanted to start with that video to frame the sustainability framework of Del Monte Philippines. And I'd like to talk about the key sustainability goals and carbon footprint of Del Monte or DMPI. As you noted in the video, we have 6 sustainability pillars. The first is nourishing consumers, where our key sustainability goal is better nutrition. The second and third are nurturing employees and developing communities, where our goal is ESG ethos, both for our internal and external stakeholders outside of the company. The fourth pillar is preserving nature, where our key sustainability goals are waste reduction and net zero carbon emissions. The fifth and sixth pillars are strengthening governance and sustaining growth, where our goal is responsible sourcing, the environmental and social compliance of our suppliers within our supply chain. These are Del Monte's 5 key sustainability goals. This afternoon, I'd like to share our carbon footprint journey by focusing on one of these 5 goals, net zero carbon emissions, which is relevant to supply chains. Improving transport efficiency is part of our net zero carbon emissions goal. Transport management. Our goal is to shift third-party delivery transport to double-decker trucks. Logistics initiatives. The goal is to install GPS devices on third-party delivery transport. And both of these improve transport efficiency as well as fuel efficiency. Electric vehicles. This is more aspirational, given the current limited availability of vehicles in our country today, especially EV trucks. But once they become available, our goal is to shift transport units to electric vehicles or plug-in hybrid electric vehicles especially for the truck fleet. Carbon emissions. The goal is to reduce carbon emissions at our production facility by 3% per year. And one of them is the cannery, which you saw in the video. Renewable energy. The goal is to install solar power in the plant and plantation. Today, our renewable energy comprises of our waste to energy facility in our production facility. Carbon footprint. Our goal is to expand carbon emissions measurement to include Scope 3 emissions. We are now working with a specialist to expand this measurement, especially for Scope 3. And eventually, our plan is to run a climate scenario analysis at 1.5 degrees or 4-degree increase in temperature. And this is now required for sustainability reporting using TCFD standards. Prior to 2020, Del Monte has historically been measuring its carbon footprint based on Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC, guidelines up to Scope 2. However, ISO 14064 standards now require carbon footprint to be measured up to Scope 3. So just a quick high-level definition of the three scopes. Scope 1 are direct emissions, including manufacturing and plantation emissions. Scope 2 comprise of indirect purchased energy, primarily electricity. Scope 3 are indirect emissions of toll manufacturers, logistics service providers, suppliers. So these are all third party outside the company. And you can also see this diagram on the right, which illustrates these three scopes. Last year, we obtained our first independent certification of our negative carbon footprint for pineapple operations. The verification process was done by the British Standards Institution, or BSI, and completed in May 2022. Our negative carbon footprint is a function of our 28,000 hectare plantation and forest cover around the perimeter of the plantation, which offset our carbon emissions under Scope 1, 2, and 3. After being certified carbon negative for pineapple operations, we have been working on expanding the carbon footprint calculation since November last year. Our objective is to measure the company's carbon emissions and sequestration or absorption for Scopes 1, 2, and expanded Scope 3, which includes leased assets, suppliers, toll manufacturers, waste generation, transport, and business travel. We'd like to determine if Del Monte or DMPI is carbon negative beyond pineapple operations, which is now we're including our tomato production in the Scope 3 measurement. We'd like to include Del Monte's carbon emissions as part of our climate-related disclosures and environmental, social, and governance metrics, which are now part of sustainability reporting. Our current project involves a broader group of stakeholders with participants from manufacturing, plantation, our beverage plant, toll manufacturers, supply chain, and our corporate office. Del Monte's net zero carbon emissions goal is aligned with the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. SDG 7 is affordable and clean energy. 11, sustainable cities and communities. 12, responsible consumption and production. 13, climate action. 14, life below water. 15, life on land. And 17, partnerships for the goals. And these are the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. We have also aligned our 4 other key sustainability goals with these SDGs. This year marks Del Monte Philippines' 97 years in the Philippines. As a food and beverage company, we have been nourishing families for generations. We have also been nurturing the land that the company has been cultivating since 1926. This is why our sustainability pillars, which you noted in the video, are important to all our stakeholders. Nourishing consumers, nurturing employees, developing communities, preserving nature, strengthening governance, and sustaining growth. And this is why our 5 key sustainability goals are important to all our stakeholders as well. Better nutrition, ESG ethos, waste reduction, net zero, and responsible sourcing. And this afternoon, I focused on net zero carbon emissions, as well as our carbon footprint journey. Sustaining our future is Del Monte's commitment to growing healthier produce, healthier people, and a healthier planet. Thank you. I'll be happy to discuss this further later during the Q&A. And I would like to thank SCMAP in partnership with SAP Philippines for this opportunity to discuss our carbon footprint journey.
Thank you very much, Iggy, for that very insightful presentation and sharing with us the best practices of your company. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Gunasekar Gurusamy, Sustainability Solutions Advisor for SAP Asia Pacific and Japan. He has worked in sustainability transformations across diverse process industries with focused efforts on EHS solutions and operationalization of sustainability KPIs. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us from Bangalore in India, please welcome Gunasekar Gurusamy. Hello, Guna.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for the warm introduction. And it's a great pleasure to be part of this SCMAP community and
from redbag.com.
enlighten
Dear
the
participants,
audience.
it is a great pleasure to inform you that you have been selected to participate in the IOC Coast Map IO Advanced Hydrographic Surveying Training course to be held at Pigason in Germany.
So let me get started with a few data points which proves that sustainability is a major imperative for all the organizations in the Philippines geographical market. So the first and foremost thing that I like about data is that you can also always vouch on data, and SAP likes a lot to talk on data rather than formulations with a lot of widespread thoughts. So let me come with the data points first. So to get started, Philippines is in fact ranked 3rd globally in terms of vulnerability to climate change, which is pretty concerning. And it's pretty evident that sustainability is something that has to be immediately acted upon, particularly on the climate action part. And secondly, 1 in every 2 investors across Asia Pacific are considering ESG or climate change metrics for their decision making, which clearly gives a sign on what investors are moving their trends towards ESG KPIs as a key marker for their investment decisions. And last but not the least, the Philippines government has mandated that they are looking at zero biodiversity loss as a target across natural forests, mangroves, seagrass, and coral cover by 2028. And they also have a target on the emission reductions, which you will shortly see by its sheer number. Not only this, consumers are also evolving rapidly, and green branding is taking up a lot of attention across Philippines. This can be well illustrated with marches like Fridays for Future March, which happened shortly, which gathered a large amount of Philippines through coordinated social media platforms. And we also get to see that surveys among consumers evidently proves that almost 75% of the millennial Filipino consumers are seeking out eco-friendly brands. And all this pulls us together in one common forefront, which is to take action now on sustainable outcomes for businesses and to ensure that they meet the end consumer and society goals to improve this planet together. So having said that, based on our interactions with customers, we have seen that there are three major challenges that we are looking at. And prior to that, let me also give you a split in terms of the overall emissions that are coming out from business operations. And in fact, 90% in most cases of these emissions are sorted out towards supply chain. And particularly across the food and consumer goods industry, this hovers around this 90% of emission quantity. And across other industries, this hovers between 30% to 80%. So it is very evident that which is your first and foremost start point that you have to start with to tackle your emission problems. And in this process, some of the challenges that we see across customers are primarily around three pillars. The first and foremost pillar is their ability to record the actual ESG data across their entire value chain. So this can be emission-related data, this can be circularity-related data, or this can be even as simple as equality or health and well-being employees kind of data. But all of this first needs to be recorded so we can measure that and ensure that there is progress on this. Unless we record some data points across these key metrics, we will not be able to measure and improve upon it. And the next step or the next major challenge we foresee is in terms of reporting this data. So we all know that the number of sustainability frameworks are ever evolving. So in fact, we have around 600 frameworks today currently globally, and these are getting added with a lot of complicated jargons and getting added with a lot of complicated sub-granular details from time to time. So this is not going to decrease, rather increase ongoingly. And it is crucial that we have a robust platform that can cater to these reporting needs across diverse regulatory bodies and diverse regulatory frameworks. And finally, what do you do with this data that is recorded and reported constitutes a lot on what you can achieve. So how can you embed these insights that you gain from this data sets into your business process actually proves what you can achieve in terms of sustainable value. So in order to embed this sustainability data points and insights that you derive from sustainability data points into your business process, you need to have robust tools in place that can help you transform your business process based on the insights that you have derived from the first two challenges. So these are the three major challenges that we see from a customer standpoint across diverse interactions with different industry groups. And this is what we are trying to aim to address during this session with particular focus on the emissions part of it. Let me move further and give a narrative on how SAP is looking at their approach to drive as a sustainable company and also to drive sustainable outcomes to our customers. So we are, as a company, focusing on targeting 3 zeros. The first zero being zero emissions, which focuses on climate action aspect. The second zero is on the zero waste, which is contributing to the circular economy by imbibing circularity, not only across their products and manufacturing process, but also towards its entire value chain. And the third aspect is the zero inequality tag, which is focusing on ensuring the social responsibility angle that businesses have in terms of corporate and social responsibility. So this would track back into worker safety data, employee health and well-being, so on. And across all these three pillars, we focus in gaining insights from all this data that we collect across these three pillars and ensure that company can holistically not only report data across these pillars, but they can also steer their company's ESG performance based upon these three data pillar collation. So here, one part of it is the complexity in terms of the voluntary and regulatory frameworks. And the other part is how to gain insights from these three diverse pillars and how to track the company performance ongoingly using these insights. So this is our key strategy on how we look at our customers to improve their ESG performance, and what are the three dimensions in which we see we can make a sustainable impact. So in this, the first and foremost is the zero emissions part, where we are looking at the transparency goals for companies across all their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. And we also help them to harmonize this data points at a granular level and achieve compliances to different regulations, different frameworks like TCFD, climate disclosure protocols, and GHG inventory protocols that they voluntarily contribute to. So what do we achieve as a business value for customers? This comes next. So it's not just a part where we talk about making a difference to the planet, but also what benefits business gets, both in terms of tangible measures as well as in intangible measures as a sustainable value. So the first and foremost aspect of this is the financial aspect. Of course, this comes right. So sustainability also means that businesses can be achieving more profitability if they are sustainable. So when it comes to financial impact, the first and foremost aspect of it is cost reduction. So this includes anything associated with reducing your emissions, reducing your energy costs, reducing the waste contributed from the manufacturing process, and even reducing the downtime plan or reducing any accident lost time. So all of this contributes directly to the top line of the organization, where it very much reflects on the profitability and improving the productivity of the organization. Then comes the next aspect, which may not be directly tangible, but other added benefits like enhancing the brand value, where your brand gets more greener and you're able to better retain your shareholders, and you're able to better improve the customer satisfaction rate when they're looking for more sustainable products. And last but not the least, millennials are greatly looking at companies which have better sustainability goals to stay back and contribute. So this would retain and attract and even engage your ongoing human resources talent pool. And when it comes to the compliance part of it, the license to operate stands the primary winning point here, where we are able to see that we are able to obey all laws when you're able to mitigate all the sustainability oriented goals, and you're also able to reduce the cost of non-compliance out of it. And finally, on the bottom line, you're able to improve your ancillary revenue streams. So this can be something as simple as carbon emission trading, or as complex as identifying newer, greener business models in terms of your existing business model evolvement. And this helps also to reduce the customer churn to other brands, and it also helps some cases to acquire new customers across new markets and new geographies. So all these are the sustainable business value outcomes for the customers. So up next, let's look at how we stand as a company. So just not to blow our own trumpet, but we would like to give you a fair value of share on what we have been doing as a company, just to inspire our fellow customers and our fellow partners. So we stand to our carbon neutrality goals, which is targeted at the end of this year, 2023, from a climate action standpoint. And we are focusing to reach net zero by 2030. And in fact, our overall emissions goal is already on track, where when we started our Green Cloud initiative for our solutions, where we run in 100% renewable energy sources for all our cloud resources in terms of hardware requirements. And as an outcome of all this, we have been rated by the Dow Jones Sustainability Index as the #1 veteran in the software industry. And when it comes to zero waste, we have already phased out single-use plastics across all our business operations and all our entities. And we are moving towards a zero electronic waste end goal by 2030. And when it comes to our social responsibility constituent on inequality, we have been always committed to human rights and overall health and safety and well-being, where we run diverse programs to improve the diversity within our organization, to improve the mental health of our employees, and to improve their talent pool by conducting diverse enablement programs and learning programs. And all this makes us a diverse and inclusive organization, as a result of which we have been rated by the ISS ESG organization as the prime rated one across the corporate ESG performance. And in addition to this, we also have an A rating with the climate disclosure project entity, and EcoVadis, which is a sustainability rating quadrant, has rated us to be in the top 2% with a gold rating. So all this proves to our commitment on what we preach, and we also continue to practice that so that we can evolve as an organization together along with our customers. So now moving on, let me talk about how can we map sustainability across a typical value chain for a normal customer. So primarily, I would like to start upstream, where it starts with the procurement of raw materials by itself. So here, some of the common challenges we see are the inability to vouch for the suppliers' diversity certification. So here, I mean, encouraging a more diverse supplier network. This can be as simple as a supply base with better minority representation, a supply base with better representation of small manufacturing unit suppliers, and so on. And the other aspect is collecting the carbon footprint information down the nth level of the supplier. So this is another major challenge which we see across. So as a primary outcome, this prevents companies to execute sustainable contracts where they are not able to switch suppliers when they find that they are not meeting their company set sustainability standards or targets. So this switch is a major challenge, which we see can be a contributing factor to the end ESG goal of the company. Then across the design and manufacturing part, it starts as early as the new product development cycle, where we don't get insights into the environmental footprint of the product, including the various constituents that are present that can be harmful to the environment and the planet, and and also contributing to the compliance across different product-related regulations. So all these insights, deriving these insights, are a major hurdle that we see across manufacturing organizations. And sometimes the risk assessment part, from both a health and safety angle as well as a financial angle from environmental oriented risks, are seen as other major hurdle. So this can be accelerated with sustainability innovations, where we can see better use for a product by improving their greener packaging that the product can be sent across with, by improving the transparency across the supply chain to gain insights into the entire environmental footprint and constituent of the raw materials used in the product. And we can also enhance the risk assessment process, where we can look at ways by which we can early detect hazards and risks in the workplace by conducting adequate job hazard analysis at a very early stage, with a common end goal of mitigating this risk for the worker and workplace safety. So these are some ways by which we can tackle these issues. And then comes the product transparency and sustainability experience part of it, which is towards the later part of the supply chain downtime, down the line, where you look at the end customers. So here, customer expectations and desires are getting more and more accumulated day by day towards greener trends, and they are also getting more and more complex with diverse markets and diverse generations to cater to. Here, the higher costs and limited availability of green materials hinder the overall production volumes as well as the sales volumes. And this is one area where we can typically map sustainability as a key differentiator to unlock potential value and to unlock potential productivity improvements. So here, acquiring new consumers or green consumers is a major challenge that we see that can be enhanced across by adopting a proper sustainability value framework within the organization. Then coming to the logistics part and recyclability part, here we see that when there is an freight associated risk where you are not able to plan your flight considering all the limitations and constraints in the end logical route, that can contribute to the safety risk. And when there are no proper planning within warehouse operations where you have to move to and fro too much, it results in a lot of energy consumption and manner wastage, which contributes to the end wastage. So this kind of troubles are seen across the logistics and storage part of the supply value chain. And here we can overcome these by ensuring that we are able to optimize the overall warehouse operations, making the to and fro trips lesser and making the transportation routes more optimized by doing a For instance, what as Mr. Iggy said, by considering a double-decker kind of option for truck routes, by increasing the volume, overall volume potential in single trips. So these are ways by which we can optimize it. And then comes the reporting part, where we see increased demand, as I already said. For ESG, we have a lot of frameworks, we have a lot of customers, stakeholders, and consumers looking for this data. And this data is not available in a single point. It is available in diverse sources across diverse formats, and getting to the granular detail and precision is always challenged. So this record, report, and act is one other challenge in the reporting process once the production happens. And once we have this reporting in place, getting the insights out of this reporting to assess the end goal of the organization. Say if they are looking for a switch between non-renewable energy to renewable energy, when they're looking for a switch between an non-compliant or non-greener material towards a better raw material. So how to see what would be its impact when they do the switch, how to forecast this based on the data that is collected. So this is another area of improvement which we can look at with sustainability value frameworks. And finally, the most important part of it, making the workplace more sustainable by encouraging a proper health and safety culture and nurturing this health and safety culture with continual improvement within the organization. So this helps in addressing difficulties like attracting and retaining the talents that are developed innately within the organization, and also ensuring that there is diversity and equality. So this overall enhances the employee engagement rates. So this is a typical value mapping of sustainability across the different diverse value chains. And these are some of the hurdles and challenges that you can use to reinvent your value chain to unlock potential sustainable value. So hope this gives you a perspective on how sustainability plays a crucial role each and every aspect of the value chain, particularly the supply chain aspect of it. So having said that, let me move further and walk you through the climate action goal part of it, which is a central crux of our discussion today. So before I do that, I'm sure some of your audience are pretty familiar with the definitions for scope 1, 2, and 3, but I would like to simplify this a little bit just in the interest of participants who have no detailed knowledge on this area. So basically, scope 1 emissions and scope 2 emissions are those emissions which are within the boundary or the set walls within the organization. So scope 1 is the kind of emission that comes in from all sources that you own or control as a business. So this can be an equipment that uses fuel. This can be an manufacturing process that uses certain raw materials. This can be a refrigerant spill. This can be a chemical spill within the premise of the organization. So any emissions coming out of these activities contribute to scope 1. Scope 2 rather is a little next indirect level, where you take this from the utilities that you purchase for your needs like electricity, heating and cooling needs, and steam in some cases where you use allied geothermal energy. So this is something which is a low-hanging fruit for most of the organizations, because these are sources which you have a direct control. The third emission, the scope 3, these are the most complex one, where when I say this includes all other emissions out of scope 1 and 2 into the entire value chain. So when I say all, it means all. This can be your employee commute, this can be your business travel, this can be your logistics for the end leg of the product to reach to the customer. This can be your use of the particular product by the consumer behavior pattern with the product. And finally, the investments that you seek out through the product usage. So these are all the last leg of the overall complex scope 3 emissions. So this is just to put a perspective on what are the scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, and also to see how we help utilize technology to address some of the low-hanging scope 1 and scope 2 and going beyond also scope 3. So I would like to give you an illustration of our emission management solution that we have, helps in monitoring the scope 1 and scope 2 effectively within the boundaries of the organization and also part of scope 3. So let me get started with the solution that we have to address the scope 1 and scope 2. In the meantime, I would like to give a brief pass here to check for any open questions before I move further. I just have trees in my screen share. Let me just get this unlocked.
Mhm. I think we are having some internet issues. Okay. We will get back to Guna for his presentation later. But in the meantime, once again, we would like to thank our sponsor for this afternoon's SCMAP Live, SAP. And please don't forget to scan the QR code and answer the short survey. The first 15 respondents will receive Grab vouchers. Okay? So let's see.
Yeah, I think I'm up and running again. Hope the screen is visible across.
Yep, good and looking fine.
Good.
All right. Sorry about that glitch. So I was about to show you how we can help you track your energy and carbon emission patterns across scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. So we start with the data collection part using our innate apps. Also, automatically, we can collect the data across your diverse equipments and manufacturing processes using our MII solutions, which can directly collect data using sensors as simple as something from your smart meters for electricity and as complex as some of the data historians that you may use to track different pollution or different emission levels. And then next comes the aggregation and calculation part, where we aggregate this data collected using our calculation engine, which has specific inbuilt content to convert the collected data into the GHG emission values. And we have a lot of out-of-the-box content, which includes the GHG inventory protocol from IPCC to US EPA-related GHG inventory protocol and so on. And we also have diverse compliance scenarios, which you can map to your end product goal of monitoring the footprint across a diverse equipment or across a diverse business operation. And finally, we will be able to provide analytical outputs in the form of visible dashboards, which you can use to monitor the carbon footprint across diverse geographical locations and across diverse plants and across diverse operations and at different intervals, be it monthly or be it on a average weekly basis or an annual basis, you'll be able to achieve all this. So as I said, for data collection, we have multiple options. One can be as simple as an app where an environmental technician can take the app to the particular equipment or to the particular business process that is involved, and he can monitor the data manually and enter it in the app. Or the data can also be bulkly uploaded using a spreadsheet, wherein there is a lot of data points that you collate on a regular basis and have them bulkly uploaded. Or it can also be through your utility bills reading, which can be automated, and the data can be directly read from the electricity utility bill onto the system with the use of defined scanner kind of interfaces. And then comes the real-time data collection, which involves sensors to collect data in real time, which all then gets converted into GHG emission values using diverse calculation engines that we have within the particular tool. And then comes the ability to track the collected data with defined environmental and permits limits that you have for varied uses. So this can be something like an electricity permit where you're tracking the upper and lower limit of consumption, or this can be something like an air permit or air pollution permit where you're tracking the exceedance of the pollutant gas or exceedance of the GHG emission value beyond a targeted value. So you will be able to do that in real time and for a specific location, and you will be also able to correct the values or you will be able to correct the deviations by creating corrective and preventive actions for the values that are exceeding. And then comes the third important part, which is the ability to forecast the data. So here we have the innate ability to forecast emission patterns based on the past data that has been collected. So we use some of the standard methods like double exponential smoothing, and we also have the innate ability to create custom methodologies that the organization wishes for. So this helps you in identifying which are the areas that you can target for carbon emission reduction and which are the areas which you can use to achieve some savings in future by taking specific measures to mitigate the emission reduction. And we will be able to communicate finally all these results across different stakeholders. So we will be able to communicate the emission values across a monthly or a bi-weekly or a weekly basis, across locations, across reduction rates, and even from a country and plant level data extrapolation is feasible. So this would really help you to visualize in real time what the organization is currently facing in terms of its emission potential and how you can mitigate or what are the steps you can take to mitigate the low-lying fruits. So you can look at those values which are at the highest for a location level, and then you can particularly target that location in, for instance, to bring down its emission value rapidly, and then you can move on to the next location. So this visualization helps a lot, particularly for the C-suite, to see in real time where they stand at their emission value potential and how to go about taking actions to drastically improve their emission reduction rates. And then comes the performance tracking aspect of it. So not only from an emission standpoint, we have the ability to track and visualize this performance, but also across all other ESG factors. So if your organization is tracking around GRI, we have the capability to address 38 GRI metrics currently with our control tower solution. So this solution helps you to track the performance of the strategic sustainability KPIs that you are wishing to visualize, and also see where you stand in terms of your long-term ambitions and how you can track your current performance with the targeted performance and see how or what kind of actions you can take to reach the final targeted performance, all in one single unified dashboard kind of view. So you will be able to again drill down into this view from an organization level to the single entity level to the plant level to a small workshop or shop floor level also. So that gains you a lot of granularity and in the same time providing you a bird's eye view from an organizational context. So I would like to give you a quick sneak peek of it. So I think the time still allows me for a few more minutes. So let me just give you a sneak peek of this particular dashboard kind of tool that I was sharing about. So let me start with it. So this is our overall solution that addresses the entire ESG metrics to be tracked and steer the organization with its insights from the data points. So let me click on the dashboard view. So as you see here, currently we have placed this metric by 3 pillars: planet, people, and prosperity. Let me click on planet. So here you can see you are able to see the greenhouse gas emissions over specified time interval, over different scopes, scope 1 and scope 2, and even by the source type and the purchased energy type and what purpose it is being used for, whether it is being coming home cooling or heating or electricity or steam, or if it is energy oriented, which is being used across machineries and business purpose. Business process like coal, fuel oil, natural gas, you will be able to granularly report out all to this. And similarly, you will also be able to track for water consumption, water withdrawals, thereby helping you to improve your water stewardship that the organization is taking forefront. And you will also be able to monitor biodiversity, which I see a lot of organizations mentioning them in their sustainability reports. So this is yet another part which you will be able to track. So this is on the planet part, some of the few metrics that we can showcase. And coming to the people aspect, we will be able to see the overall gender diversity. We will be able to have the ethnicity based data points. We will be able to meet out most of the parameters associated with this GRI materiality index 4051B. So this is one other illustration on the other diverse KPIs that we can track. And not only this, when it comes to the economic parts, economic angle of it, we will be also able to see the overall employment related aspects, the economic contribution, as in terms of what is the direct economy value and what is the direct economy value distribution over time, and what are the costs that are associated with this. So this happens through a seamless integration of this platform across different logistics modules that we have and financial modules that we have as a one common intelligent enterprise that we strive to be. So it's just not cutting through a specific siloed solution like just emission monitoring, but it can be as diverse through different solution portfolios and cutting across different logistics process and value chain process within the organization. So that's the power of SAP as we touch through 77% of transactions across the globe, and we are able to have a single integrated platform which can help you to embed sustainability into each and every business process that you have. So that's a quick narrative about the ESG platform's capability. So with that, I come to a conclusion for my session. So I am about to close this particular narrative that we had in proving what we are capable of doing as an organization for your in sustainability goals. And now I would like to invite you to feel free to visit the Sustainability Navigator tool, which we have, which can help you to identify what kind of sustainability challenges exist within your industry and how you can go about mitigating them. So let me give you a quick glimpse of it by exploring the Navigator tool. So this tool has been specifically designed for organizations to utilize their capability or to see what is their major challenge across 3 dimensions: climate action, circular economy, and responsibility, and how they can go about with each of these from a solution and KPI point of view that they want to improve. So for example, let me go to climate action, and you will be able to see what are the solution aspects that we can highlight from SAP and what will be the ability that we provide across each of these targets, be it scope 1, scope 2, or be it scope 3 involving products, or if there is a e-mobility associated goal that you have, how we can help through that, or if it is a sustainable travel that is your end target, how we can help through that. So all of this facilitation and solution advice and process advice that we can cater to is available in this Sustainability Navigator tool. So I request all the SCMAP members to make use of this tool, just not to stick to SAP, but just to ensure that you are able to see what kind of challenges that we address as a company and what kind of challenges we see based on our interactions with diverse industries, and how you can use or how you can overcome these challenges using these specific tool sets that we provide to address some of these aspects. So with that, I conclude my closing remarks here, and I'm sure sustainability is not a one company issue or a one company problem. So this involves bringing the ecosystem together, bringing most of the organizations together towards one end goal, which is to make this planet a better place to live in. And I trust every one of us will have our fair share in helping meet this goal. And with that note, I end my technology-oriented share of mind in this session. And I hope you would have found this entire narrative useful, and you'll be able to use some of this in your ongoing engagements within your business for your sustainable outcomes. Thank you, SCMAP. Thank you, audience. Thanks for the time. And if there are any specific Q&A, I would like to have them addressed during the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Guna, for that very informative presentation on SAP's approach on the key environmental challenges and about your ESG performance tracking and management program. So now it's time for our open forum. We will be joined once again by Del Monte's Iggy Sison and SAP's Gunasekar Gurusamy. Also joining us in our discussion will be the Customer Success Director for Digital Supply Chain for SAP Southeast Asia, Ms. Simone, Pigason. So I'd like to begin the question for Iggy. Okay. You mentioned earlier how Del Monte is verified to be carbon negative for scopes 1 and 2. How did you track your process and process your emissions for those scopes? And how do you intend to achieve net zero for scope 3 emissions as well?
So as I said earlier, we started with our scope 1 and scope 2 measurement. So scope 1, essentially our factory and our plantation, and scope 2, our purchased electricity. Now we are broadening our measurement to include a broader segment of scope 3, And actually, we estimate that our scope 3 is as much as 85 to 90% of our carbon footprint as a company. Scope 1 and 2 comprise 10 to 15% of our carbon footprint. And this is in line with what you also saw in the SAP presentation of Guna, where I recall he showed that for food companies, it's 83%. So that's very close to our estimate. So scope 3 really is our bigger challenge. Of course, we're doing all the best we can to improve our scope 1 and scope 2, reduce our emissions in our own production facility, as well as with purchased electricity. But scope 3, and two important areas in scope 3, one is, of course, is supply chain, because of the third-party fleet of trucks, warehousing, logistics providers. So supply chain is a big component of scope 3. And the other one that's significant is the consumer, which is not known to many people. And all of us in this webinar are consumers. And let me give you an example. For example, you buy a can of pineapple slices, right? So what you do with that product has an impact on the scope 3 of a food company like ours. You know, after the can is opened, will the product be consumed as is, or does it have to be baked, or does it have to be cooked, which would require energy? Will the consumer use an oven, a grill, a microwave, a stove? All of this used energy differently. Will the product be fully consumed, or will there be any leftovers, for example, that will go to waste? And if there's any leftover, will it be stored in the fridge? Again, the refrigerator uses energy, right? And finally, will the product packaging, in this example is a tin can, will it be recycled or will it be thrown away? So all of these consumer decisions impact our scope 3 footprint as a consumer company. So what we have to do as a company is to engage with our consumers through our product labeling, our marketing campaign, and to have this education campaign that because most of us think that when we think of carbon footprint of a company, we just think of the smoke coming out of a smokestack. We just think of smoke coming out of vehicles. But actually in scope 3 with supply chain and consumers, there's actually a lot of carbon emissions there that we have to manage as well.
Okay, thank you very much. So my next question is for Simone.
Hello, Anna. Hi, everybody.
Hello. ESG now plays a crucial role in corporate boardrooms, particularly as the impact of climate change has become greater. So how can companies find their true north on ESG and better navigate both society's expectations and investor demands? And how can this be a value-added differentiator across manufacturing organizations?
That's a loaded question. Especially with the fact when the question is on the how, because it's different per type of company, in industry, right? But perhaps I'd like to answer your question a little bit differently. Maybe I'd answer it first by talking about my experience in talking to C-suite executives, right? What they talk about in the boardroom. Is it really sustainability? And my colleague Guna a while ago talked about some percentages of C-suite executives really talking about sustainability, ESG programs. This McKinsey Global Survey, and I'm going to spew out a couple of percentages here. It says that 83% of executives think that sustainability and ESG programs will actually generate more shareholder value in the next 5 years, right? So they know this. Board members, C-level executives know this. A couple of other things, right? There's an Accenture research that says those who are in those who are in those are performing in terms of ESG better than their peers would actually have a better operating margin, maybe 3.7 times higher than those who are lagging in ESG right now, right? So these are the kind of conversations that we are having with C-level executives. Before, as a technology provider, and when you talk about supply chain or end technology, we would always talk about profitability. We will talk about efficiency, streamlining, right? Productivity, doing more with less, right? And these are still very important things. But right now we are talking to customers, and customers are talking to us. C-level executives are talking to us on environment, social, and governance metrics, right? How are we going to track the transportation costs, and how does that ultimately roll up to my ESG reporting, right? So number one, I guess, Anna, it's really I'll answer your question. Number one, it's a hot commodity topic in all boardrooms right now. In all C-levels, the CHRO, zero inequality. Chief Sustainability Officer like Iggy, for example, talks about everything ESG. The CFO, it's very compliance and governance. The Chief Supply Chain Officer will talk about product footprint management, right? Transportation costs, carbon emissions. So a lot of the conversations are packed here. How is, so that's, yes, it is very relevant at the moment. How are C-level executives thinking about it? Iggy mentioned a very important point a while ago. Looking at your own house, so to speak, what can you track, what can you report, and therefore what can you manage? I love the story, by the way, Iggy, of how you're spearheading. You're actually like even before all these because right now it's all a little bit up in the air, isn't it? Like everybody's still experimenting on what ESG and sustainability is. Nobody could actually, author a book of knowledge of what it really is. It's still evolving. But I like the fact that you're spearheading it, you're moving fast on it. And I guess that's the how thing, right? Know where your white spaces are in terms of sustainability. What are the things with sustainability reporting as the end point? What are the things that you're lacking now? Are you lacking a data gathering capability to record your transportation, to record your utility bills for scope 2, etc., etc.? So it's long-winded, Anna. I'm really sorry. We won't have time to talk about everything on the how. But I hope that kind of answered your question.
Thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to know that even in the boardroom, this sustainability is also a very hot topic. Okay, so my next question is for Guna. Hi, Guna. You mentioned earlier the 3 scopes of carbon emission, and you also spoke briefly about this in your presentation. Can you demystify this for us? How can organizations begin to report and forecast greenhouse gas emissions across their operations and ultimately achieve their emission reduction targets?
Absolutely. That's a very insightful question, I would rather say. In fact, we already saw when I narrated my presentation, the differences between the 3 scope types, scope 1, 2, and 3. But the key aspect that we mostly try to overachieve in terms of organizations' goals is we directly go into all the 3 emissions at the same time, which is not a very advisable way, I would say, because scope 1, scope 2 are pretty much low hanging, and they can give you an return of investment on your sustainability initiatives immediately, because these are sources that your business owns and controls, be it electricity consumption, or be it a raw material production, or be it energy usage across your business process. You'll be able to readily tackle this, and you'll also be able to collect the data pretty much easily, because this is something that you can control. But scope 3 is pretty diverse. In fact, I would say it spreads around 50 GHG categories. Imagine it, 50. 50 of GHG category types are there when it comes to scope 3. So I would advise organizations to always start with scope 1 and 2, which are within their control, and then go forward, reap the sustainability ROI for it, and then move forward to scope 3. So that is the starting point to get started with. So how do you get started with it first? The first important aspect of it is, as I say, data. You have to get the platform right to collect this data ongoingly. So one part of it is ensuring that all the different sources are tapped into a common platform where you can read data from them seamlessly. And you will also be able to read this data at a frequency that you desire. So for example, we saw that with one of the customers, they have been using their own internal systems wherein they were using some spreadsheet kind of application to track the data on an annual basis. And this was actually not helping them to realize their carbon emission reduction goals. And also they were doing some carbon emission trading with certain agencies, which was getting a lot of efforts were getting cumbersome, and they were also not able to get the transparency and confidence in their calculation that they make. So in such cases, it is very crucial that you have a platform which just not helps you to get the granular details of the emission sources, but you're also able to switch the frequency at a seemingly easier rate. So if you want to switch from an annual rate to a weekly rate or a monthly rate, you should be able to do that in a jiffy, and you should be able to derive the insights in real time across these data points. So a common integrated platform, preferably something that can integrate with all your business process, or something that can automatically bring in the data if possible. That's a good way to get started with. And once you have this platform in place, you can go forward and enhance your scope limitations. So once you have met scope 1 and scope 2, that's the most crucial challenge in data collection. Then you can move to the scope 3, where you have to go down the layer along the end supplier within the supply chain. So there you will need a wider network where you can collect the data. So this cannot be as simple as, you go to your supplier, get a data, because the same supplier will be catering the same need across diverse customers. So it's not easy for the supplier as well as, if there are 50 product emission requests getting bombarded from different customers, it's going to be different. So here I would like to quote an example where we had a similar scenario in the automotive industry a decade back, where they came together as an industry consortium. They put together as a common platform called IMDS, where they were able to collect the product declarations from suppliers, where one submission can be going to multiple customers. Say, for example, they are submitting a data for a bolt. That same data for bolt can be submitted to different customers. So it can be to one car manufacturer X, one gear manufacturer Y. They can use the same data and send this across to diverse, customers and stakeholder requests. So similar approach is something that we should see for scope 3, where we should try to get onto a network which can derive data from different suppliers into a common platform. So this can be one way of minimizing the complexity involved in it. So I see these two are major differentiators. And of course, technology will be a very useful aspect to mitigate the manual effort spent, the time spent, the cost spent in the overall data collection and data analysis and emission reduction target insights. So all of this technology would play a vital role. So I think that's the way organizations should go about it.
Thank you very much, Guna. So this next question is again for Iggy. Having gone through Del Monte's sustainability report, it is clear that taking care of the environment is a core part of your business operating plans and strategy. So among other efforts, you have identified climate-related risks and its potential impact on your business, and established a dedicated sustainability team that supports the company's initiatives. Can you tell us more about this process and how it has allowed you to better understand the challenges and opportunities Del Monte faces on this front?
Thank you, Anna Rose. Before the concept of sustainability started to evolve from the late 80s, before the term became popular, Del Monte has had to sustain the land. I mean, we've been operating the land, as you can see here behind me, since 1926. And we won't be able to be in operation for nearly 100 years now if we had not been nurturing this land. And let me give you a clear example of climate change, right? More occurrence of drought or El Nino, more frequent occurrence of La Nina, or heavier rainfall than average, right? Even typhoons, right? I think most of you will remember that Mindanao was outside of the typhoon belt for many decades. But in the last 10 years, you will see that there have been a few more typhoons that have crossed Mindanao. So you can see the difference in climate. And that's real climate change for us. And we are in Bukidnon, we are in northern Mindanao. And whether it's too dry or too wet, we have experienced that. And this is why carbon footprint measurement is very important for us. This is really core to our operations. We have 28,000 hectares that we cultivate, that we need to sustain. So this is very much a part of our operations. That's why we have to take stock of our carbon footprint. That's why we have to measure it. That's why we have to track it. That's why we have to track the waste that we send to landfills. So this is really core to our company because we're a food and beverage company. We source our produce from the environment. That's why for us, it's not just a buzzword. It's not just something that's topical. It's not just something that's a popular subject now, but it's really been a matter of sustaining the productivity of our land for nearly a century. And we have developed 5 key sustainability goals, which I shared with all of you earlier. And 2 of them out of 5 are related to the environment, waste reduction, as well as the net zero carbon emissions. So it's, again, it shows that, that's 2 out of 5. So it reflects the importance of the environment to our operations. So concept of sustainability is based on the concept of materiality. So that's very material to us. And as a result of our carbon footprint measure, we have developed strategies. For example, now we have undertaken our solar energy project. So that resulted from our objective to increase the ratio of renewable energy to the total energy that we need. The other thing is the new EPR law on plastic waste reduction, as well as plastic waste recovery. So this is, again, part of our strategy. Again, this is related to our sustainability goal of waste reduction. So it's an evolving process, and it's really important to make a strong business case as well for sustainable practices to be also grounded on a strong business case. Then they will be around for a long time.
Okay, thank you very much, Iggy. So I'd like to ask Ms. Simone. Simone, one of SAP's major focus points is in driving sustainable and resilient supply chains.
Yeah.
How do you think can we embed sustainability as part of our supply chain planning and achieve sustainability KPIs?
There's a lot of ways, but I'll mention 2. Guna has mentioned something like this or has touched upon the topic, right? So in SAP, we make sustainability, or the practices in sustainability, we try to make it profitable, and we make profitability sustainable. So that's like our bumper sticker in SAP, right? Specifically, I'll give you an example. So when we talk about supply chain, one of the enablers that we do at SAP is that we enable our customers to forecast demand more accurately, so that when you forecast demand more accurately, you don't have to overproduce. Because right now, with all the supply chain disruptions, security of supply is very important, right? But with a platform, right, what we do, if you overproduce, there's a lot of risks as well there, not just profitability, not just in terms of increased inventory in the warehouse, but it's also a sustainability risk, right? Because if you overproduce, there's going to be carbon emissions there from overproduction. There's also going to possibly be some spoilage, especially if consumer products and food and beverage. So by forecasting demand more accurately, supply chain managers are able to much more produce just in time, therefore avoiding unnecessary waste. Okay, so that's one, for example. Second is, and Iggy mentioned about a while ago about the use of double-decker decks, right? So that you don't have to go a lot of trips from the retailer to the warehouse, etc. So something like that, you know, there should have been a study that Del Monte, and correct me if I'm wrong, Iggy, that made them get into the business case of shifting from one kind of transportation to another, right? So in SAP, we kind of do it in a micro level. We have we give our customers the ability to do demand sensing, so that, you know, these warehouses would know where to produce it, and usually the proximity is very important there, because the farther your trucks go, the more carbon emissions that transportation would emit, right? So demand sensing is another capability that we give in terms of, you know, in terms of merging supply chain and also sustainability together. I just want to end maybe by this, right? It's all about data, right? Sustainability on your supply chain could make or break a brand reputation. You probably might have heard of this company. You could just Google it. That was accused of greenwashing, right? Wherein, you know, the intentions are right? It was to report sustainability. It was to report, you know, the practices of the company. But because the data that they have collected isn't the most accurate, right? Instead of the motivation or intention to increase brand reputation, it backfired. So that's, I guess, where supply chain, sustainability, and where technology goes hand in hand. We believe as technology advisors, and we don't say it because we are technology advisors. We say it because the accuracy of data and the real timeness of data is very important in supply chain right now, much more heightened by sustainability KPIs. Hope that answered your question, Anna Rose.
Thank you very much, Simone. So I'd like to ask Guna, from your experience in working across various industries, so which area within the manufacturing process do you feel can technology play a major role in unlocking sustainable value?
Thank you, Anna. This is a question I always expect to be asked. So thanks for asking it. See, honestly, I would say there is no one-size-fits-all kind of response to this. But I would say, as I already pointed, sustainability can be embedded in all business process. But I see a lot of value coming out of some areas which I'm about to say. One part of it is emissions. We already saw clearly how it can contribute to the climate action. The other angle is also on the energy optimization part within these emissions. Then comes workplace safety, then comes product safety, then comes warehouse optimization, then comes your connected workers, wherein you are able to have better engagement rates. And then also, in addition to all of this, the compliance angle of it. So all of these act together in tandem to give an overall sustainable value to the end customer. So we are able to influence these aspects technologically to get better value from each and every part of it. Say, for example, when you talk about employee safety, I would like to share a use case that we have seen, which has got a lot of popularity. So it starts with a smart wearable that the employee can wear. Say, when the employee is working in a specific hazardous location, he can wear a smart helmet that can, in real time, track his biometric measurements, which includes the surrounding noise, his sweat rate, his heart rate, and it also helps in identifying the stress levels based on these patterns of data, biometric data that we collect. So in real time, you will be able to say if there is, say, for example, if the particular equipment is operating at a decibel higher than the normal noise limit allowed, it can immediately be recorded as an incident, and the safety officer can investigate the specific root cause and identify a resolution as a corrective action for it. So this kind of connectivity to the end worker who is there in a hazardous location is a real differentiator when it comes to the way the company looks after the employee and the way the company looks at improving their overall safety culture. So this is one interesting use case. The other aspect here I would also like to highlight is with one of our customers who has been a leading refractory materials or refractory product producer who was able to tap their emissions in real time, where they're able to switch their annual recording rate into monthly recording rate, improving their carbon emission trading capabilities. And they were also able to have a lot of confidence and transparency in the way the data got collected. They were able to vouch for this data across multiple stakeholders, multiple forums in real time for monetary value. So this is one other use case in terms of emission management. And when it comes to product compliance, I would say across the globe, we had more than 1,300 companies which are using our product compliance suite of solutions, which help in generating automated material safety data sheets for the products that are considered hazardous or dangerous. And it also helps to run automated dangerous goods checks when they are moving from one logistics route across different modes of transport, be it air, water, or sea. We are able to track these across diverse regulations, including IATA, IMDG, even CFR DOT. So all these different types of regulations are able to be comprehensively tracked. So this capability actually saves a lot of real-time human efforts, as well as helps the organization is gaining confidence in their overall process and systems in place. So these are some typical use cases that I have seen across, which has gotten a lot of interest. The other aspect is on the health and safety management part. I would also like to share some data points, which we executed with one of our reference customer, Ternium Brazil, which is a leading steel manufacturer across Latin. And they were able to save almost 20 minutes per worker health safety evaluation. And they were also able to track more than 1,945 PPEs stored across diverse locations on an optimally inventorized way. They were able to have the system set up using our health and safety platform. So these are some use cases and snippets of achievements that we were able to give as a value to our customers.
Okay, thank you very much, Guna. Finally, for everyone, I'd like to hear your final thoughts on how we can truly enable sustainable supply chains moving forward. Anybody can start? Like to start?
Lady first, gentlemen.
Okay.
May I?
Simone, please go ahead.
Thanks for that diversity and inclusion thing for making me first in line to answer the question. Very apt for our topic. So how can we, right? As I've said, loaded every time we talk about how it's very good that some companies have already done it. So I guess the overarching message that I'd like to say is the more we know, the more we will know. Okay, the more we talk about sustainability, the more we talk about it and what it is not, the more we expand our conversations from scope 1 and scope 2 to perhaps scope 3, the more we would know what our where our baseline is, right? Where in scope 1 are we going to start? Where in scope 2 are we going to start, knowing that we can't measure our scope 3 at the moment? A little bit of shameless plug, Anna Rose, I hope you don't mind. We as a technology advisor, we plan to be part of this education, advocacy, and sustainability, right? So free of charge, absolutely, you can quote my name. We have a sustainability impact labs where we have sustainability experts work with organizations, whether you want to start with supply chain, for example, or HR, whichever part of ESG, wherein we talk about baselining and then where you want to go in terms of sustainability, and we help plot that journey with them. So sustainability impact labs, sustainability advisory services, please invoke the partnership with SAP. Most of you who are here tuned in are SAP customers, but even if you're not, we all have a responsibility in this topic of sustainability. So please talk to us, contact us, and converse with us on this, because as I've said, the more you know, the more you will know, the more we could measure, track, and then manage sustainability. I would like to maybe volunteer Iggy this time.
Yeah, thank you, Simone. I think for sustainability, just to reinforce what Simone and Guna have said earlier, it's important as well to define who our stakeholders are, whether it's our consumers, our employees, the local communities where we operate, our investors, our shareholders, our creditors, our business partners, our distributors, our supply chain, right? So these are all our stakeholders. And once we've identified all of them, we need to determine what is material to all of them as our stakeholders, what is important to all of our stakeholders. And that's where we come up with the list of what's important to our stakeholders. And then we start prioritizing, right? What is the most important for consumers? In our case, it's nutrition, right? So that's what we've identified. What's the most important, for example, for our employees, right? Is it employee engagement, well-being, health and safety, and so on? So that's an important process to ensure that sustainability is relevant, responsive, and it's also very proactive, because it's not just based on theory, but it's based on an actual determination of who our stakeholders are and what's actually important to all of them. Yeah, thank you.
May we hear from Guna?
Thank you. So for me, I echo the thoughts of Simone's here, but I would just like to add a few more pointers to it. See, when we talk about sustainability, it's always like, it's not like a separate island where we are targeting a specific unit within the company, say a CSR unit or a EHS department who can just cater to it. It's actually something that you have to embed in your overall business process to unlock a sustainable value that can result in improvement in your top line for the organization. So it can be something like switching to a greener packaging in the design part, to optimizing the effective utilization of ventilation and lighting in the manufacturing floor, to seeing how you can garner better, greener consumers in the last line of sales. So all of this contribute to sustainability. And when you marry across these business process, technology as a key counter initiative, you will be able to derive potential outcomes that you have not seen before, because this is something that we have been seeing across organizations. So some of these outcomes that they have seen after the technology transformation part they took into in some of these business process initiatives were really humongous, which they never imagined they could think on their own. Because many a times we are all so I would say, rather I would use a word burden, or we are overwhelmed with the kind of day-to-day business operations and process that we in. We are not able to gain the actual insights that we can garner from the data that we are able to fetch from these operations and our day-to-day interactions with our business. So this insights can help you unlock a lot of value, which not only helps us in a sustainable outcome, but it can also help you in the overall productivity outcome. So please explore that part of it, and wherever feasible, try to marry technology to our business process initiatives. You will be astonished at the outcomes that they can come out. So here we are always there to help as a company, as a crusader on sustainability. We have a lot of focus on it, as Simone just pointed out. And in fact, to quote our APJ president's words, that he literally said, we either lose or win this war of sustainability in Asia Pacific. So that's the importance that we are looking here as a company that we are putting forward. And we look forward to further interactions with each and every one of the participants here to see how we can help them in their sustainability journey. And feel free to reach out to Simone, and we will be able to facilitate much better interactions and workshops on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we close, one more food for thought. Wouldn't it be great for us to be able to understand our own personal carbon footprint? That made me think. You can do so by visiting the website on the screen right now and on the chat box for those taking part of this through Zoom. Thank you once again to our speakers and panelists for this afternoon. Iggy Sison of Del Monte, Philippines, and from SAP, Gunasekar Gurusamy and Simone Pigason. Thank you as well to our event partners for this edition of SCMAP Live, SAP. And don't forget to take part in the short survey by scanning the QR code on your screen right now. The first 15 respondents will receive Grab vouchers. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. This wraps up another edition of SCMAP Live. We will have more events in the coming months, both in person and online, and you can keep up to date by visiting our website, scmap.org, as well as following us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. For now, I'm Ana Rose Ochoa, and on behalf of everyone in SCMAP, we'd like to wish you a pleasant day ahead. God bless us all.